We've had a few days since the release of Season 3 of Suicide Squad, and there's enough here to make me want to make a video on my thoughts on it. I've had a few people join streams and say, is it good? Is it worth coming back? I'll cut straight to the chase. If you played Suicide Squad in the past and it's not been your jam, you didn't like it, Season 3 is not doing anything dramatic that is going to make you rethink how you feel about Suicide Squad. On the flip side though, my overall feeling with Suicide Squad is that it's a fine video game. It is not the horror show that many have made it out to be, and nor is it a masterpiece. I do feel like Season 3 is the best season yet. It's not what I would call a great season in terms of a product, but it's the best of the bunch so far, thanks to some alterations that they've made that have definitely helped out. So let's talk about it. As always though, the smallest of reminders, if you're after coverage of the Arkhamverse or comic book games, consider subscribing with Arkham Shadow right around the corner, which I'll be playing and covering. So Season 3 is another season of what we've come to expect. I still maintain though that the problem that Rocksteady gave themselves is how they marketed these Elseworlds. We were kind of given this promise and premise of being very narrative heavy and very focused on getting narrative beats, when really Suicide Squad seasons and episodes function like Diablo seasons but with a DC coat of paint. You get some DC themed loot for that season to play around with, you make some cool builds, and then you do it all again the following season. The gear that you collect is never rendered useless the following season, but for infamy sets you do lose your episode bonus of course. This time around though, and a little bit of Mrs. Freeze, they've reworked incursions that actually contain some narrative dressing. So, with progression now, it still reach a certain episode level to be able to fight Brainiac, but at different episode levels, a new incursion will be unlocked to play. These 3 incursions add extra narrative beats to this season's story. It's something that you would have to go back and find, but I remember giving my thoughts on Season 1 season of Joker and saying, if you are going to make us run these incursions before we get to the end game of the mastery levels, have some kind of narrative beats within them. So, I'm not saying I'm behind this feedback, please don't think that. What I am trying to say is that it's good that Rocksteady are kind of reworking how incursions are to give them that narrative dressing to make me want to actually care about running them for the first time. And that's what they do here. So as a result, in Season 3, we get some back and forth between Zoe, aka Lawless, and her dad, Deadshot. It's not much, but it does add a bit more feeling to the game's characters who, outside of a 1-minute cutscene after fighting Brainiac, you don't get much unless you're digging through the game's audio logs. It's nice to have this addition, and like I say, I don't love Lawless being some Twitch streamer character. I just don't really vibe with her personality, but I did like the dynamic of her and Deadshot, and the stakes around that father-daughter relationship with what's happening in Metropolis. But it's still got problems in that too much happens off screen. Like, I saw Green Lantern fall through some portal having no idea what just happened. So I go back to Metropolis after finishing the mission, and Lois Lane is doing one of her reports that gets broadcast, and she's saying that Lantern is back and she's fighting against Brainiac. And I'm like, huh? He was still slightly corrupted when I saw him, he fell through a portal, and now he's saying that he's been fighting against Brainiac's forces. So then I go back to the Hall of Justice and he's just sat in the pod. And I was just like, what? I don't understand. And truthfully, this is something that happens in a lot of other live service games that try and tell some kind of narrative. Half of the coolest shit that happened in Destiny 2 is told in its lore books and off screen. So I understand that they have to kind of pick and choose the moments here, but for something where you're telling me like Green Lantern's back fighting, you want to see something like that, or have something demonstrated that that has happened. You know, maybe have the enemies talking about it when you go back to Metropolis or something like that, just to signify that Lantern has been back fighting and that he's still corrupted and that's why he's back in the pod. I understand it's difficult, but it was just so weird to happen. As for Lawless herself, she's great. The build that I did have going for her, which is up on the channel if you do need some nasty sniper critical hit build, it's 2-shotting the toughest enemies in the game, it's crazy. Anyway, her gravity tech is really fun, and once again, the animation that is going on is superb. You know, people are like, oh, the only reason people like Suicide Squad is the animation of the traversal. And I'm like, yeah, because it's fucking fantastic. Like, they are wizards at Rocksteady for this kind of stuff. And you pair that with the new Elseworlds, and look, mastery levels as an endgame is just, I don't need to repeat myself. It would have been fine as a supplementary leaderboard, or maybe it's one season's core activity. But we've had 5 episodes of it now, and it's ultimately just the same thing over and over again with different environments. But the reason that I am enjoying myself this season, or I was, is this season's Elseworld theme is Gotham. It's an Elseworld of a Gotham that is engulfed in Scarecrow's toxin. You revisit Arkham Asylum, Crime Alley, GCPD, and many iconic Arkham locations that is here. It all looks sublime, I can't lie. But the real magic that is immersing me and making me so happy as an Arkham fan is what they have done with the soundtrack here. They have reimagined, rescored the main Arkham themes that have been present throughout the games, particularly in Night, and adjusted them and put them into Suicide Squad with that kind of combat remix, but also just the way they tweak the actual main Arkham theme. And it is sublime. Like, even as someone who, whether you don't like Suicide Squad, you're an Arkham fan, and you dislike Suicide Squad, fair enough. I can't imagine you listening to this and not being like, this rules, this is fantastic. So, yeah, kudos to the team that worked behind that. Like, they did a phenomenal job with how the game's score is in this episode. Like, genuinely, a love letter to Arkham fans. I won't play too much of it here since WB have copyrighted 2 of my Arkham videos in the past for playing the themes, but yeah. The way that it's redone for Suicide Squad combat, it just really does, it gets you going, and you feel it, you know? Especially for me who holds them Arkham games so dearly. And the Arkham theme in here, the music, the environments that you go to is so good that for a while it did mask the whole Elseworlds monotonous nature of it all. But as apparent with so many Suicide Squad episode releases now, there is technical problems once again. So, mastery levels at the very start when Suicide Squad first released were slow. They eventually made a change that meant your highest available mastery level that you could do was the average of your 3 highest completed ones and then plus 5. I don't know if it just wasn't implemented, it's bugged, they've changed it again, but it's now your 3 highest average plus 2. So this means that every time you beat an incursion at the new highest available mastery, you only get 1 mastery level up. And it's just killed all my momentum. And especially because this game's entire end game is just mastery levels, I am not running the same 3 missions that I enjoy 30 times to get to my usual stopping point. Look, this could be patched by the time this video is out, but what a shame, man. It's almost like the higher-ups were told that sacking over half of the QA team would have consequences that leads to a degraded product. But then again, who can ever trust higher-ups, let alone WB higher-ups, to make good financial decisions, never mind decisions on a human level? The other highlights as usual from the season is the build crafting. Once again, it is excellent. Excellent looking loot that opens up some terrific build options. I'm serious when I say I think this game's most underrated feature is the game's build crafting. It's just paired with bad activities, man. How corrupted loot can take an okay gear piece and make it sensational and genuinely transform your build. How you can become a human grenade, focus on crit builds, melee builds, grenades, and the quality of life changes that mutators have gone from debuffs to buffs. Like, actually playing the game, it all feels really good. You get a real sense of power. But as I mentioned, my desire to make builds has been stifled by the mastery progression, and with episodes being such short experiences, it's not that builds expire or anything, but you kind of just want to play with the new toys episode to episode. And I actually think I kind of enjoyed the boss fight against Brainiac for the first time in this game. I don't know if it's been tuned better, I don't know if my expectations are on the floor for these boss fights, but yeah, the good change that was made here is that it takes a lot less time to actually get to the fight with Brainiac than what it took before, where you have to do like 3 or 4 activities to fight him, whereas now it's just 2 really quick ones and then you can go and fight Brainiac, which definitely helps the pacing of this fight. Like, I genuinely remember in the last episode spending 40 minutes before I even got to him and then just munched on my bullets for another 20 or 30 minutes. Couldn't do it. It's still just Lantern cross Superman boss fight, but it just felt better. I don't know, man. I really don't. As for everything else, it's pretty much what you'd expect. A few more Riddler trophies, riddles to solve, and AR speedrun challenges that'll net you a few more free cosmetics. A better battle pass, but not by much, and more actually good skins in the store that I'm just not buying because the game, I can't see it going past Season 4, so why would I put down more money? Even if I do love these new 52 skins, especially since I just finished reading the new 52 Justice League run that ends with Darkseid War, and that is incredible. Like the stuff, if you're a Batman fan, go and read that. If you're a Justice League fan, go read that run. Even if you just read Darkseid War, it is sublime. Anyway, I guess that's just a natural point to talk about Suicide Squad overall. It's not going to change. It's not going to be revolutionized and all of a sudden warrant support past a year. The sentiment is too widely down on it. You know, even as someone who does enjoy playing this game, I want Rocksteady to go back to single player and do what they do best. As everything here that isn't focused around being live service is fantastic. And even some of the stuff that is, I do love. The Elseworld environments, the extra characters that have been added, but most importantly the DC loot, design, the build crafting. I really do think that it's excellent and it is overlooked by many. It's just let down by the activities that you can use that loot in. I'm still interested to see how all of this wraps up because let's say that Season 4 is the last season. We've still got Batman and Superman to rescue, 7 more Brainiacs to kill, and oh my god, 7 more? And somehow revive Diana if that's going to happen. And then of course we've got to defeat the final Brainiac. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I am fucking stoked to play as Deathstroke next season. Like, other than Black Manta, he is the man that I have wanted. And it's funny that, like, 10 years, 11 years now, since Deathstroke was first teased at the end of Arkham Origins for a Suicide Squad game, we're finally going to get him in a Suicide Squad game made by a different studio. Like, it's crazy how it all works, right? But I'm really stoked to see how Rocksteady kind of do his traversal and the mechanics and how that's going to fit into his overall build. Deathstroke is just a sick character. Come on, man. I'm also excited to hear Kevin once more as Batman. I didn't like the whole Batman thing in the main game with how he quote-unquote died, but I love the rest of what they did with Kevin, and he loved it too by the sounds of things in being, you know, the bad bat and doing something different with the character. So, we'll see how it all wraps up. I don't think, had this been the seasonal quality from the start, that things would be dramatically different, but I do think that those who enjoyed it would have kept coming back for more. Again, I like Lawless as a playable character, but she's not got the appeal of a Black Manta, a Captain Cold, Peacemaker, even like Copperhead or Polka Dot Man. It's just not got the pulling power, especially when you're going back to Gotham. Regardless though, they're just my thoughts on Season 3 of Suicide Squad and where we're at right now. Let me know what you're thinking. Have you played the new season? And if so, what are you thinking of it so far? If you haven't, are you going to come back at any point? Are you waiting for all the seasons to come out and then just kind of do one playthrough to see everything that happens? Or are you done? Are you just waiting for the next Rocksteady project? Like, let me know where you're at. I'd love to hear from you. As always, just keep it civil. Yeah, let's be nice. If you enjoyed hearing me talk about Season 3 and just rambling on about some DC tangents that have absolutely nothing to do with this game, then dropping a like would be appreciated. And, you know, that's your best way to help me out. As I mentioned, I will be covering Batman Arkham Shadow later on in the month with an Arkham Origins playthrough to come through. So if Arkhamverse content is what you are after, or superhero content in general when it comes to video games, do consider subscribing. I'd love for you to stick around and I will have you covered. Otherwise, all my socials will be linked in the description down below. Other than that, I hope you have a terrific day, play games, get gains, and I'll catch you next one.